Assalamu alaikum viewers, Muhammad Nazim with the third lecture. Aaj, third lecture, a slightly continuation of the previous because a certain part of my last lecture yet remained to be finished. But before I continue on with my previous lecture, let me confess one thing, that when I completed my lecture, I thought that my viewers, especially my students, must have found the material very heavy. There were lots of scientific details, theories, concepts, and perhaps might have created some mental indigestion. But don't you worry, you will get to know how to assimilate these details. Gradually, I want to bring you to that level where you could digest anything quickly and easily. I will inshallah try in my coming lectures to make it more light and entertaining, but the fact remains, जहाँ मैंने emphasis एक चीज पे किया है कि it's a scientific approach and you need to face certain realities, accept certain norms which are embedded into the system. थोड़ा सा पिछले लेक्चर के बारे में डिटेल्स स्लाइटली रिव्यू कर लूं ताकि आपको अगर कहीं कोई कंफ्यूजन रह गया है तो वो दूर हो जाए. मैंने अपने लास्ट लेक्चर के अंदर जहां ओडी मॉडल को बड़े डिटेल में डिस्कस किया, उससे पहले मैंने ट्रेडिशनल मॉडल्स के बारे में भी आपको बताया. स्पेशली मैंने बताया कि एक्सपर्ट मॉडल वेयर यू इनवाइट द कंसल्टेंट एंड सेकंड typical, very particular was the patient-doctor model. I hope that you realize those are obsolete models. Unfortunately, if we look around, we find those models are still prevalent in our system. हम अभी भी उन systems को अपनी organization और अपनी रोजमर्रा जिंदगी में अप्लाई करते हैं. अगर आपको मैं in a lighter vein, lighter mood में समझाऊं, supposing you want to construct a house, और मैं आपको कहूं, hire the services of an architect, and he or she will give you all the details, or perhaps might in totality आपको मकान आपकी मर्जी का, आपकी चॉइस का बना के दे देगा. Perhaps your approach would be, नहीं, I would like to save on the money, मुझे सिर्फ नक्शा बना के दे दो, बाकी सारा काम मैं खुद कर लूंगा. ये बिल्कुल इसी तरह से है कि कभी आपको नज़ला, जुकाम, खांसी हो जाए तो instead of going to the doctor and finding out what were the causes, you simply go and self medication में indulge कर ले. The time for that sort of a treatment is gone. Either you should bring yourself to that level where you are well equipped, well knowledgeable, that you could exactly diagnose where the problem is, then okay, self-medication to some extent could be the solution. But otherwise, times have changed. इसलिए मैंने जैसे आपको पहले कहा था कि I'll be giving you some advices as well. आज के लेक्चर में मैं, before I continue on with the lecture, I would like to give you a few tips, जैसे कि मैं हमेशा अपने पिछले 2 लेक्चर में करता आया हूं, कि मैं थोड़ी सी क्रिएटिविटी भी आपके दिमाग में लाना चाहता हूं कि आप अपनी पर्सनल लाइफ में भी अपनी अप्रोच को थोड़ा सा चेंज कर दीजिए. दैट इज, ट्राई टू बी मोर ह्यूमनिस्टिक अप्रोच अपने जात में ले आए. डॉक्टर्स मॉडल, पेशेंट मॉडल नहीं होना चाहिए, एक्सपर्ट मॉडल नहीं होना चाहिए. आप ये ना समझें कि आपको हर प्रॉब्लम का हल आपके पास है. मे बी सम अदर पर्सन might be having a better idea. So tomorrow, if you are in a position where you are confronted with any such problem, don't think that you are an expert. Even if you may be an expert, but yet, who knows that the other person might be having a better option. So therefore, humanistic approach means that listen to the other person, empathy, value the judgment, khud judgmental na hona, but rather see from which angle that person is coming forward. Humanistic approach मैं चाहूंगा कि आप अपनी जिंदगी में अभी से ले आएं. दूसरी approach I would like you to incorporate into your life is this scientific approach. जैसे अभी मैंने नक्शे की बात की. A person who is an experience, who knows the art, should be involved. Don't try to do everything. Don't lay your hands in everything. You are not an expert. Scientific approach. Third, systems approach. And now मैं सिर्फ आपकी पर्सनल डेवलपमेंट की बात करूं, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डेवलपमेंट में लेटर ऑन आऊंगा. और मैंने आपको कहा था कि मैं जहां ओडी के बारे में आपको बताऊंगा, आई वुड लाइक यू टू ट्रांसफॉर्म योरसेल्फ एज वेल. सो द थर्ड इज दैट यू शुड हैव अ system approach. That is, when you are taking a decision, not that it is you who should be the upfront person to be benefiting from that change, but the whole system should benefit. जब systems approach होगी, तो you will take the people along. यहाँ से मैं आ जाऊंगा बात collaborative approach होनी चाहिए आपको. Involve your people around. Involve all those who take interest in the activities you are indulging in. Because I am forcing you to be a manager of the 21st century. Therefore, ये सारी approaches आपके अंदर अभी से आनी चाहिए. जब ओडी के सब्जेक्ट को पढ़ें, तो अपनी लाइफ के अंदर भी turn your eyes inward and see how you can bring a change in yourself. तो इसके लिए important है कि आप अपनी जात में थोड़ी सी शेयरिंग का एलिमेंट डालें और collaborative approach रखें. जब आप ये सारी चीजें कर लेंगे, when the whole trend will shift to these approaches, तो आपकी जिंदगी में holistic approach आ जाएगी. आज की ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होलिस्टिकली देख रही है. सारे एलिमेंट्स, मैंने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का वो जो आपके सामने चार्ट रखा था, उसको ज़हन में कभी मत भूलिएगा. ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस डू नॉट एग्जिस्ट इन वैक्यूम. आइसोलेशन में वो सर्वाइव नहीं कर सकती. जस्ट लाइक अ ह्यूमन बीइंग कैन नॉट सर्वाइव इन आइसोलेशन. So therefore, you need to have a holistic approach in your life. And once you develop that holistic approach, तो आपकी जिंदगी में improvement का आना लाजमी है. Efficiency आ जाएगी, and you will be certainly a better human being. Having said that, I would like that after my lecture, sit down and focus on all these things which I've mentioned to you, and see how you can bring about a positive change in your life. Mind it, if you could carry this message with you throughout your life, that nothing is constant. The only thing constant is change. Change will ever happen, and that change should bring a qualitative change in your life. That growth should increase your capacity. इसीलिए throughout in OD explanation, we based on humanistic element, behavioral sciences. We also talked about the system approach. We also talked about the continuous intervention of the OD. Remember, I said, at no stage can an organization afford to sever the relationship with the OD consultant. Because the organization will have to keep them renewing. Organizations constantly change होती रहेंगी. लिहाजा कंसल्टेंट का रोल भी बदलता रहेगा. आज किसी और चीज के लिए कंसल्टेंट आया है, कल को फिर अगेन a new problem will emerge. And that's why you should never ever think of completely severing the relationship of the OD consultant. And that is the beauty of the OD, because as it's a unique change system which keeps on constantly checking and rechecking. Having said that, आइए एक और इशू के ऊपर थोड़ी देर के लिए अपनी नजर को मरकूज करते हैं, to find out what is an ideal, effective, healthy organization. एक ideal, effective organization को क्या करना चाहिए? How should it look like? For a couple of moments, I am going to enumerate certain things which we should be looking forward to in an organization. Okay, once we have a clear picture of an ideal, effective, healthy organization, तो फिर ये सारी OD techniques should fit into that frame, and we must accept, yes, that is what we want. Now, an effective organization is the one in which, first point, the total organization, the significant subparts and individuals manage their work against goals and plans for achievement of these goals. Here, nobody works in isolation. No group, no department, no subsystem is having its own course. Everybody knows where the company wants to go. Strategy की बात की थी पहले मैंने OD के अंदर. So therefore, एक ideal company में unison होता है. एक uniform approach where they want to go. Right from the PM to the top CEO, they know exactly what is the requirement of the organization. What are the different roles? What are the responsibilities? Goals and plans need to be clearly defined. And of course, these goals and plans will keep on changing. Second important aspect for an ideal, healthy, effective organization is that form follows function. That is, the problems or tasks or project determines how the human resources are organized. I said form follows function. It's very clear that any structure which is not flexible cannot accommodate people which are very versatile, which are innovative, which are who want to do different things differently. Keep in mind, when I say functions, I mean human beings. What is required of them, what to do. And then form. Structure organization का क्या है? Problem का क्या है? Not that you form the organization first and then fit in the people over there. ये बिल्कुल इसी तरह से है कि आपने घर का नक्शा तो पहले बना लिया और उसके अंदर जब आप फर्नीचर लेकर आए तो यू डिस्कवर कि घर की तो दरवाजे बड़े छोटे हैं, आपके पास तो बहुत बड़ा फर्नीचर था. You can't fit into that house. Not at all. You have to see what your requirement is. Maybe you want a very big living room, but the design room was very small. So, form of that house, what is the shape, what is the structure, should fit in. It should follow your requirement, not the other way around. That is, look at the slide. I said form follows function. The problems and all those things which need to be addressed have to be accommodated. The organizations should be viable organizations. The organizations should be adjusting according to the needs of the people. Supposing I give you an example that I have got 20 employees working with me, and I have got very talented people working with me. Somehow, few of them can't come in the hours I want them to come. मेरे organization का एक खास 9 to 5 time है. And if they say we can't come, does it mean I lose those people? Not at all. If my system is very rigid, then I will be losing the talented people. आज शायद इस लेक्चर के अंदर मैं आपको एक केस बताऊं कि उस केस के अंदर you will see how does the CEO accommodates people. Exactly the same way you need to keep in mind कि आपकी organization का structure बड़ा flexible. अगर rigidity structure में है, then you are sure to lose. Third point, decisions are made by and near the sources of information, regardless of where the sources are located on the organization chart. Very importantly, एक ideal situation में, एक ideal organization में decisions वहां होने चाहिए जहां से problems originate हो रहे. You remember an example I gave you in my first lecture that I bought a cologne and I returned it. खरीदा कहीं से था, return कहीं और किया था. And that lady there and then decided. She didn't have to go to the top man and find out what the decision should be. The problem जहां से originate हो रहा था, वहीं से उस खातून ने decision ले लिया. That is an indicator, that is a sign of a living organization that decisions are taken right where they need to be taken, so that there are no delays. Decisions are made by and near the sources of information, regardless of where these sources are located on the organization chart. Organization chart के अंदर responsibilities vary करती है, authority, empowerment varies. But if the organization is such where the authority is shared, where decision making is shared, there will be no problem. Any person at any stage can take a decision. अगर एक, let's say, एक parking lot में, supposing that parking lot is exclusively for the executives, फिर situation क्या होगी? कोई नया visitor वहां आता है, and he or she is a VIP, and if that person over there rudely behaves with that person, it will reflect badly on the organization culture. लेकिन अगर उस बंदे की ट्रेनिंग इस तरह से हुई है कि if he realizes that the one who has walked in, tried to drive in and park the car is a new person, perhaps वो flexible हो जाएगा और उसको accommodate कर लेगा. लेकिन अगर rigidly says no, nothing, जैसे मेरे घर के बाहर अगर एक चौकीदार rudely behave करता है because I instruct him not to let anyone come into my house, then that is not what an ideal situation is. It's important that we train each and every person in the organization to decide there and then. Fourth point, the reward system is such that managers and supervisors are rewarded and punished comparably by or comparably for short-term profit or production performance, growth and development of their subordinates, and creating a viable working group. In a growing organization, in a healthy organization, reward system needs to be very well designed. और reward system में अगर कोई employee अच्छा काम करता है, must be rewarded immediately. If there's a delay, it is surely going to affect. If people are hardworking, then they must be rewarded. They must be appreciated. There are organizations jahan when a new person comes in, when I talk about culture, I'll tell you, when new people come into the organization, तो उनके ऊपर कुछ पुराने सीनियर बंदे डिप्यूट किए जाते हैं to let that person know the culture of the organization, to help them be a part of the group, a part of the system. Training may involve, and those who are successful are rewarded because it is in their benefit too that when they let an outsider come and assimilate into their system, it makes a healthy group. It is important that rewarding के अंदर, if somebody does something good, should be immediately rewarded. Let's look at the next slide. Communication laterally and vertically is relatively undistorted. People are generally open and confronting. They share all the relevant facts, including feelings. Now here, it is important that where there are people involved, there will be lots of issues. Confrontation वहाँ होगी, frictions वहाँ होंगे. But You just cannot brush aside those things. ये जो lateral relationship है, often इसके अंदर लोग will have problems. So, log when will interact with other departments, confrontation is bound to arise. It is important there that this issue should be dealt, not that आप उसको ignore कर दें. जहां भी कहीं organization में, कहीं confrontation, कहीं friction, problem आए communication में, need to be dealt with very seriously. Otherwise, it is going to overall affect the harmonious working relation. You can't brush aside. You can't carpet के नीचे उसको नहीं फेंक सकते. And for the time, you just go, ये हमारी priority नहीं है. इस वक्त let's not talk about the interpersonal problems. No, must address it because otherwise it's going to affect the productivity. 6th point. There's a minimum amount of inappropriate win-lose activities between individuals and groups. Constant effort exists at all levels to treat conflict and conflict situations as problems subject to problem-solving methods. Now here, it is important कि conflicts जो आ रहे हैं, जो problems आ रहे हैं, उनको हम properly address करें and do not try to avoid, as I said earlier, because otherwise it will aggravate and it might grow out of proportion. Next point. There is high conflict, clash of ideas about tasks and projects, and relatively little energy is spent in clashing over interpersonal difficulties because they have been generally worked through. जब भी कभी clash, conflict, organization में आए, उसको resolve करें, लेकिन उसके साथ साथ encourage करें कि अगर clash of ideas हैं about tasks, about projects, कि इस task को इस तरह नहीं, इस तरह से करना चाहिए, encourage that. Encourage that conflict. कुछ conflicts damaging हैं, कुछ conflicts are good for the organization. That is what is known as the cross-fertilization of ideas. वो शख्स जो कि लेथ मशीन पे काम कर रहा है, knows exactly what are the problems he or she is encountering. On the other hand, a manager at the top might not understand it. वो शख्स बता सकता है कि अगर इसको मैं इस तरीके से कर लूंगा, save time, cheaper and better. लिहाजा जहां हम क्लैश ऑफ इंटरेस्ट को अवॉइड करेंगे, वहां हम इस आइडिया को प्रमोट करें, एनकरेज करें कि म्यूचुअली द पीपल शुड लर्न टू एक्सचेंज डिफरेंट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यूज, और वो जो आइडियाज के अंदर क्लैशेस हैं उनको रिजॉल्व करें, लिसन टू देम एंड सी हाउ कैन दे बी इफेक्टिवली हैंडल. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एंड इट्स पार्ट्स see themselves as interacting with each other with a larger environment. The organization is an open system. Now here the concept is that organization open system है और इनका interface different units के साथ रहेगा. अगर ये concept दिमाग में रहा तो people will work and try to accommodate all the other units, because the organization isolation में, अपने interest में, अपने small goals के साथ survive नहीं कर सकती. So that is why it is important कि organization की totality का ख्याल रखते हुए उसके various जो influences हैं, जो external and internal forces हैं, उनको निगाह में रखा जाए and the problems should be addressed likewise. Next point. There is a shared value and management strategy to support it of trying to help each person or unit in the organization maintains his or its integrity and uniqueness in an interdependent environment. Here, the management does recognize the uniqueness of every person, every unit, or the subsystem of the greater subsystem. So therefore, shared values पे कोई compromise नहीं, and then management respects and acknowledges and tries to accommodate various units or subunits with that thing in mind, that basically if the goals are not affected, then various units can have their independence and likewise autonomy at times, because I said earlier, decision taking locally at a lower level honi chahiye, and that's why the top management should let the decision be taken wherever, not to consolidate in at the top level. Next point. The organization and its members operate in an action research way. General practices to build in feedback mechanisms so that individuals and groups can learn from their experience. I'm not touching the subject at the moment of action research. Perhaps I might have mentioned earlier, I don't know whether you picked up that point or not. मैंने आपको कहा था कि OD के अंदर the OD consultant has a scientific base for introducing interventions. और वहां मैंने action research की बात की थी that you do not take any action without having done sufficient research. तो यहां भी again उसी का emphasis है, but for the time being I'll only say that all the changes in an ideal organizations are based on a scientific base, जिसकी की बुनियाद उसने action research रखी है. जब मैं इस subject को, because that needs a pretty long explanation, and the whole theory, how did action research evolved, वो इंशाल्लाह मैं detail में आपको explain करूंगा. That will make it very clear. But ideal organization, a healthy organization must incorporate the scientific base. That is the action research. मैंने शुरू में mention किया था कि change is happening. Nothing is constant. Permanence नहीं है किसी चीज के अंदर. I would go to even that an extent कि आज जो हम समझते हैं कि ह्यूमन रिलेशनशिप में परमानेंस है, वो भी नहीं है. बिकॉज द डे यू थिंक कि ह्यूमन रिलेशनशिप परमानेंट है और आप इग्नोरेंट हो जाएं कि आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज क्या हैं, so human relationship gets affected. You have to keep constantly renewing that relationship. Every day you are a new person. The other person is a new person too. नई नीड्स हैं, नई होप्स हैं. अगर ह्यूमन लेवल के ऊपर रिलेशनशिप इस तरीके से इन अ स्टेट ऑफ फ्लक्स है, which you must realize, and I firmly believe that that's why when I talk to people, some people do not buy it, they don't absorb this, but the reality is that there is no permanence in human relationship. आज जो आपके दोस्त हैं वो कल आपके दुश्मन हो सकते हैं. आज आपका जो ऐसा रिश्ता है जिसको आप समझते हैं कि वो टूट नहीं सकता, कल को टूट सकता है. जब ह्यूमन रिलेशनशिप में परमानेंस नहीं, तो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में ने भी ये साबित कर दिया कि वहां भी चेंज के साथ जिन ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के अंदर ह्यूमन बीइंग्स काम कर सकते हैं, वहां एक ही चीज कांस्टेंट है, एंड दैट कांस्टेंट इज चेंज. So if you keep that change philosophy in mind, then you will address your own issues differently and likewise in an organization. Today's managers need new mindset. ये मैंने शुरू में बात की थी, लेकिन मैं फिर emphasis. There'll be certain things which I'll repeat again and again. और उन चीजों की जरूरत भी है, क्योंकि you need to be renewed. Otherwise, अगर ये इतनी आसान होती, ह्यूमन माइंड भूल जाता है. सो आई विल कीप ऑन रिमाइंडिंग यू कि आज का मैनेजर नीड्स अ न्यू माइंडसेट. क्या चीजें उस मैनेजर्स की रिक्वायर्ड है? पहली बात मैंने कहा था फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी, सेकंड स्पीड, थर्ड इनोवेशन, एंड फोर्थ कॉन्स्टेंटली चेंजिंग कंडीशंस. फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी पे मैं बहुत बात कर चुका हूं और आज मैंने अपना लेक्चर भी इसी से शुरू किया. आई वॉन्ट यू टू बी फ्लेक्सिबल एंड दैट्स व्हाई आई सेड ह्यूमनिस्टिक अप्रोच अपने में लिया है. अगर आप रिजिड नहीं हैं, आप अगर फ्लेक्सिबल हैं, you will be a very successful human being and likewise will be a very successful manager. जब ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस फ्लेक्सिबल हो गई हैं, उनकी बाउंड्रीज खत्म हो गई है. शुरू में मैंने कहा था कि द डंपिंग मनी, टेक्नोलॉजी, मैनेजमेंट एक्सपर्टीज इनटू एरियाज जहां पहले कभी जाना नहीं चाहते थे मल्टीनेशनल्स. टुडे दे आर देयर, नो मैटर व्हाट द एनवायरनमेंट इज. फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है, इट्स अ साइन ऑफ फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी. So the managers likewise need to be very flexible. And especially when you are working with human beings, you need to be extra flexible. अभी थोड़ी देर पहले मैंने कहा था कि functions accommodate होने चाहिए forms के अंदर. अगर forms rigid हैं तो functions will have problems. Here comes the question of flexibility. If the manager is flexible and realizes that an employee cannot come on the duty for certain reason, should accommodate. Humanistic element. Second point, मैंने कहा, speed. Speedy action must foresee organizations कहाँ जा रही हैं. Inaction today, what is it going to cost tomorrow? You can't sleep over a problem. I'll see it later on. Not at all. Immediate action, because the world is moving very fast. In information technology की मैंने आपसे बात की. You might, if you lose an opportunity today, you might not get that opportunity again. You may never get that opportunity. So you need to move very fast. Innovation. I don't need emphasizing on innovation again and again. But the problem is, we have got no alternative. A manager has to be innovative. शुरू में मैंने मिसाल दी थी मैनेजरियल इनोवेशन की. ये इनोवेशन है. आज मैं आपसे बात कर रहा हूं. I don't see you. You see me. But I'm transferring knowledge. You're getting the degree. Innovation है. Some manager over here in this organization did it. That is the beauty of the things, how managers are reaching using innovative techniques. So, manager of tomorrow or aaj ka manager has learned to be innovative. And lastly, must expect, must embrace that conditions are changing constantly. You can't have a very fixed environment. You can't think that today what you're doing, you will keep on repeating again. That's a very, very important aspect. स्लाइड पे देखिए, ये चारों चीजें आपके लिए बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. मस्ट कीप देम इन माइंड. आई वुड रादर से embrace all these things, start practicing them today, and surely one day you will turn out to be good managers. आइए थोड़ी देर के लिए ये देखें कि सक्सेसफुल फर्म्स के ट्रेट्स क्या होते हैं. हमने मैनेजर्स की तो बात की. we've been talking about a lot about the environment. Successful firms की traits. How do they share their traits? First, they are faster. That is, successful firms, they are more responsive to innovation and change. अगर जहां मैनेजर बड़ा speedy action लेता है, firms do not move fast, like I said, move faster into areas, taking more responsive and innovative change, will not survive. Then, quality conscious means firms must be committed to quality. मैंने आज सुबह आपको कहा था कि आप अपना फोकस शिफ्ट कर दें फ्रॉम क्वांटिटेटिव टू क्वालिटेटिव अप्रोच. ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में भी ये जरूरी. आज का कंज्यूमर एग्जैक्टली क्वालिटी कॉन्शियस हो गए. Consumer is ready to pay more money if the products are clean, if the products are green. Consumer pressure डाल रहा है, enlightened है. मैंने कहा था कि वो intergenerational actions पे सोच रहा है कि मेरे बाद आने वाली नस्लों को कौन सी दुनिया देकर जा रहे हैं. Today's consumer is thinking has become so intelligent. जैसे आपने ऑर्गेनिक फूड्स देखे होंगे कि they can pay more. Cost factor at times doesn't work. So quality consciousness, commitment to quality. But mind it, मैंने शुरू में कहा था कि cost और quality ही चीज नहीं, but this is just one aspect. Next, employee involvement, adding value through human resource. Under no circumstances would we ignore our fellow men working for us. चाहे तो निचले लेवल पे हो, चाहे टॉप बॉस हो. That is human element की respect. Behavioral science का aspect इसमें आ गया जो हम OD पे बहुत फोकस करेंगे. Successful firms, they do concentrate, they focus on their people, and they value their customers. They value the people who satisfy their customers. Then customer oriented होती है. Firms का total focus उनके customers होते हैं, and they create niche markets. I hope you understand the word niche markets. अगर आप कभी शॉपिंग के लिए गए हों और आपको सिल्वर ज्वेलरी चाहिए हो या किसी को गिफ्ट देने के लिए you want some silver products, you can find in the market today in Pakistan niche products हैं. एक तो ऐसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं जिनकी यूनिकनेस है वो सिल्वर खूबसूरत से गिफ्ट्स बनाते हैं. उनकी they have got their own uniqueness. You cannot find anywhere branded item. आप supposing any female audience was listening to me, antique jewelry में interested हों, so there are people who specialize in that area, और nobody does. So उनके niche products हैं. लिहाजा likewise they have their niche markets. Some products are flooded in certain area where people appreciate that. Value added products हैं. So successful firms cater for such customers because there are people who can appreciate products. And lastly, successful firms, they tend to be smaller. They are made up of more autonomous units. जितनी बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हो जाएगी उतनी कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज उसके अंदर होगी, उतनी डिसीजन टेकिंग की प्रॉब्लम होगी, उतनी एटोनॉमी की प्रॉब्लम होगी. Organizations tend to have smaller units because quality conscious organizations, if they could have smaller units producing goods at their own level, that will be very good. So ek dafa phir I would like to see these qualities you must keep in mind: faster, quality conscious, employee involvement, customer oriented, and smaller. Having said all this, 21st century organization kaisi hogi? I started with this and I'm going to conclude here this part of it, that you see in the center the organization of the 21st century, वो सारी चीजें जो मैंने अभी आपको बताई: faster, quality conscious, employees involvement, customer oriented, and smaller. External input क्या है? Changing customers हैं और उनके लाइफ स्टाइल्स और ट्रेंड्स जो हैं they are influencing the 21st century to modify. जैसे ट्रेंड्स होंगे वैसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन उनको अडेप्ट अपने आप को करेंगे. टेक्नोलॉजी है, न्यू प्रोडक्ट्स हैं, न्यू टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं, जैसे मैंने शुरू में कहा था क्लीनर टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं. लिहाजा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन 21st century will be catering for these things. Competitive uncertainty, regulations, prices, supplies, इनका बहुत इफेक्ट होगा आपको. You have to keep in mind 21st century की organizational problems क्या होंगी. And then there'll be new competitors. I mean, domestic and multinational organizations will be having a lot of influence on these 21st century organizations. Now, having said that, giving you a clear picture of what the 21st century organization is going to be, and also telling you what is the role of a manager today and what will be the role tomorrow, I need to sum up this whole lecture today, that if we really want to be in the run of the top companies, we have to embrace the changes which I have mentioned to you today. Mind it, there are organizations in the world today who are practicing these things. These are not mere stories, but in fact, in reality, people have taken certain very innovative steps, some very dynamic leadership. People, very visionary, they have experimented all these things. मैं आज आपको एक company की example दूंगा. If you really want to know the details, the names, and exactly where this company is located, you can go to the website and see my notes. But this company is a new kind of company. It's an amazingly new company, and the way the organization came up, the company came up, and its functioning is really eye-opening. All those things जो मैंने अभी तक आपको बताई are being practiced there. Actually, the owner of this company is a dropout of Stanford. When I say dropout of Stanford means, somehow you can say he was not a very successful, very promising person who could acquire the degree and go and work for some other organization. But somehow, maybe the ideas didn't click, or as I have been saying, he might be thinking differently, and which certainly he proved later on. Ambitious banda hoga, dynamic banda hoga, bada innovative manager tha. When he was dropped from Stanford, he could not complete his studies. He thought of opening up a small company. And that too company, a software company. And abhi thodi der pehle maine aapko kaha tha कि some firms cater for niche areas. वो niche company बनाना चाहता था. He had a very small investment, so he started at a very small level, and उसने 40 बंदों को employ करके 1989 में software company form की. But that man had a vision. Imagine after 4 years, with his visionary practices, with his managerial innovativeness, the company grew from 400 to 1,000 employees. और उनका software is unmatchable in America, and state-of-the-art काम वो करते हैं. Now, to call all these people working in this organization as workers would be wrong, because all these people employed or working for this man are managers, all are partners, and all these people, they are shareholders. Now here, look at the vision. छोटी कंपनी है, सबके stakes हैं उसके अंदर. The founder, when he formed, he had this idea, and he knows one thing, that in this hyper turbulent environment, it is difficult to retain employees. तो जानते हुए कि और भी सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनीज हैं, इस शख्स ने जहां से इसको जो भी talent मिला, he picked that talent up. He paid the price, brought the talent into his company. So the whole company comprises of talented people, geniuses in their own area. Now realizing the founder knows one thing, that his company depends on talented people. And he also knows कि इनकी मार्केट में और भी बहुत डिमांड है, लिहाजा उसकी बिगेस्ट वरी ये है how to hold these people. The founder, in fact, he invests a lot in the old people, and also when he brings in new, he takes it upon himself to train them. खुद ट्रेनिंग करता है, ये नहीं कि he hires an external trainer or management consultant, but he himself invests on the newcomers. And as the team grows, he knows how to hold them together. कैसे? He's a very artful person. Founder is a very intelligent person. He knows how to energize people, how to make courageous decisions. वो out of book decisions करता है. Remember, मैंने वो मिसाल दी थी कि irrational or difficult to explain decisions. This man does the same thing. To retain his talented staff, very courageous decision. That's why he's giving them share in his company. और ये कंपनी भी follows some very unusual practices. अपने ऑफिस के अंदर जहां लोग काम करते हैं, fully stocked kitchen है, फ्रिज भरे पड़े हैं, very well food served, whatever one wants gets it. Works like speedboats, fast cars, party every Friday. If somebody does good job, reward करता है. Imagine. Now you realize why this company retains and nobody wants to run away. The only reason is that people in that organization know that it is their company. It is not that the top man owns the company. Of course, he's a founder. It's his brainchild, but he has shared it. मैं अक्सर एक मिसाल दिया करता हूं कि if you want to bake a cake and you want to bake it alone, you have a limited capacity. आपकी लिमिट कैपेसिटी होगी, आप इतना बड़ा केक बना लोगे, इतना बड़ा बना लोगे. But then again, you are not going to share that cake with others because you have made it. But if you involve other people, you can make a bigger cake. And even if you give them their share, you still get a bigger portion. तो हम घाटे का सौदा क्यों करते हैं? Why don't we involve people? And mind it, baking the cake all alone involves a lot of energy. Anything you want to do alone, focus, attention, risk, strain. Why? Why not to share it with people? So the new philosophy is that company like this, which I say a new kind of company, the top man needs to give confidence, needs to give decision-taking abilities and powers, needs to give autonomy. Then you can grow. And the only fear for him is to retain them, and that's why he shares the profit. I believe, जो मैंने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले आपको 21st century का नक्शा दिखाया, this sort of organizations will survive. हमारे लिए आज this is a very good example and a very good lesson. You need to remember this example. आप इस कंपनी को विजुलाइज करो, बैठो, सोचो, जैसे मैंने कहा था, and think, what do you lose if you create? You really do not need to be a very highly qualified person to create such a niche product in the market. You might have an ability. It's only that you have not focused yourself. You might not have not channeled your abilities. You might not have exploited your abilities. That's why, with such examples, which I'll be giving a lot more in the coming lectures, you need to look forward and be a visionary person. But only if you start working on yourself, incorporate all those things which I talked about today, right from an individual to the manager and to the organization, and of course, the interaction with the internal and the external environment. I believe आज के लेक्चर के अंदर आपने बहुत कुछ सीखा होगा. And surely you must have already started thinking of being a better human being. Then, of course, you must be having a lot of potential, but constant improvement on yourself. And there is no time lost. If you start thinking, you will inshallah see that you can improve upon your abilities. I hope you must have enjoyed my lecture, and there must be lots of things for you to copy in future. Thank you very much, and see you again. Khuda Hafiz.